Hey y'all, I am back with another astrological case study. I know it's been a while since I posted one, so I felt that one was overdue. And in honor of Gemini season, I decided to do this case study on Wayne Bobbitt and Lorena Bobbitt. And I've been wanting to do this case study on them for quite a while. So I decided to do it via a documentary. So I'm going to share my screen and play a documentary. But again, in honor of Gemini season, I'm choosing this because Wayne Bobbitt is a Gemini rising. So we'll get into how Gemini plays out in his life. But first, let me pull up this documentary. So I'll be stopping the documentary periodically just to add my commentary and to talk about things that are in both Wayne Bobbitt and Lorena Bobbitt's chart. I'm also going to be looking at their marriage chart. I'll also be looking at the chart of when the infamous incident occurred, as well as their Sinistry. All right. So let me share my screen and I'm going to pull up the documentary. Just 1 second.
Wayne Bobbitt is the owner of the world's most notorious penis, brutally chopped off by his wife Lorena back in 1993.
She took a knife, grabbed my penis, pulled it up and cut it off the base.
It was just scary. It was just a bizarre, scary thing.
It was to become one of the most widely reported and debated court cases in modern history.
Okay, I'm stopping already because let's just get the aspect out the way that deals with his beheading. No pun intended. But anyway, so Wayne Bobbitt, first of all, when I was thinking about his chart, I was like, he got to have something, an aspect involving Mars and Saturn. And I said more than likely it's going to be a quincunx aspect. Matter of fact, what I said was more than likely he got a quincunx aspect either involving Mars and Saturn or Mars and Pluto or Mars and Chiron. So when I pulled his chart, the Mars Saturn aspect came into play. So Wayne Bobbitt, he has Mars quincunx Saturn. So his Mars is in Scorpio, reinforcing the penis theme. And then Saturn's in Aries. Aries is dealing with the knife. So that's the aspect right there. And the reason why I said quincunx is because he was able to get the penis reattached, or part of his penis that was cut off reattached. So when you have a quincunx aspect like that, it is like where, yeah, you could get it fixed. It could be corrected. All right, so let me just continue on. I just wanted to get that out the way. So again, just to reiterate, and actually let me stop sharing and I'll pull up his chart real quick to show you what I'm talking about. So here's Wayne Bobbitt's chart. Like I said, he's a Gemini rising. So let me just get my drawing tool so I can draw that aspect. So here's his Mars right here in Scorpio, 5th house. And it is forming a quincunx to Saturn. So that's the aspect that dealt with him getting his penis cut off. And the fact that Saturn's at the 2nd degree of Aries, that 2nd degree deals with women. So his wife cut off his penis. And then Saturn is conjoined to the sun, and that is representing the attention that he received as a result of him getting his penis cut off. It can also deal with where he was able to, actually the media attention, again, that sun ruling the 3rd house, that's pointing to the media attention, but also that's showing that, you know, he was able to use that as a way to attain some level of fame, even as what do you call that? He was able to capitalize on that, you could say, which we'll get into further in a minute. All right, so let me go back to the documentary.
A life is more valuable than a penis.
But this was only the beginning of the John Bobbitt story. Nobody could predict the fame he would achieve, nor the bizarre career choices he would make, from porn star to comedian to reverend. But in an extraordinary 12 years, John has continually been in trouble with the law and was recently arrested again for assaulting his third wife.
He's just been beating me for the past 4 years, and he needs to accept what he's doing wrong.
John's always protested his innocence, and I wanted to discover the real story behind the legend of John Wayne Bobbitt.
What's that truth, goddammit? Oh, you can't handle the truth.
On the night of the 23rd of June, 1993, John Wayne Bobbitt woke up to every man's worst nightmare. His penis had been brutally chopped off by his wife Lorena.
I woke up when I felt a lot of pain. I sprung up immediately and woke up into a nightmare.
Basically, I don't remember what happened. I wish I can tell you this has happened from the time that I picked up a knife or, and did what I did. But I don't, detailing, I just didn't remember.
Blood everywhere. I was scared, frightened, confused.
Lorena fled their home, jumped into her car, and started driving.
I got to the stop sign. I couldn't turn because you need the two hands to turn as you see me. And then I realized that I have, my hands were busy. I have a knife in one hand and I have his penis in the other hand. And then I scream and I'm like, oh my God. Just, get rid of it and I toast it over there.
John's penis landed in this attractive piece of parkland, minutes away from their home.
I walked into the hospital room. The doctor comes up and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" He said, "Let me see where you're cut." And I pulled on my pants and you're like, "Oh my God." He freaked out. The doctor freaked out. And you're supposed to be a doctor here, So he goes, "Get in that room." And then Dr. Singh comes in, he's a urologist. And he goes, he's all ecstatic. He's never seen anything like this in his life. And it's like, wow.
It's a gut-wrenching thing to see. I'd never seen anything like this before. It's really an awful, awful thing to see. So I was left now about 5 or 6 o'clock that morning.
Yeah, she cut that down to the nub.
Counseled John for his options, and there weren't many at that point.
Okay, we don't have your other part, so we're going to have to either close you up or find the other part.
Now, let me see if I see an aspect in his chart that deals with the doctor being all freaked out. Now, it could show up in his natal chart. It should definitely show up in the transits that deal with that thing. But let me look at the natal. So Uranus is conjoined to Pluto in Virgo. That could just deal with a doctor being shocked, period, especially a urologist, because Pluto in Virgo can deal with a urologist. And then with Pluto conjunct Uranus squaring that Gemini ascendant, yeah, that's the doctor being shocked at seeing him in such a state. And then let's see what else. Chiron, which could represent a doctor as well, what is Chiron doing? Chiron is forming a quincunx with his moon. Now that right there could deal with the fact that his wife basically tossed it and they couldn't find it at first. They didn't know if they would be able to save his penis because it was missing. So that could be a doctor being confused and being kind of like, oh my God, how do we address this situation, and where they did have to ask the wife. But let's continue on.
Well, we can't find it in such a time. We're going to have to do an operation to seal you up, and then you just have to, you know, you said basically you have to sit down and pee and this and that. Yeah, okay, so well, right at this point, I'm like, okay, they're not going to find it. And I'm like, okay, where's the gun? That's what I'm thinking, suicide.
Lorena, meanwhile, had turned herself in and told the police where she threw John's penis.
The police found this organ in a field of high grass. No one was prepared to touch it. And they called the ambulance squad because they knew they would at least bring some gloves. And with that, the errant member was retrieved and brought into the 7-Eleven, where, oddly enough, of course, hot dogs are sold. So it did come to me in a nice brown hot dog bag on ice. It was in quite good condition. The dog hadn't chewed on it or nobody had stepped on it.
Using pioneering techniques, John's penis was successfully reattached. The story had captured the world's imagination, and this one terrifying incident was to change the course of John's life forever.
Why did he have his picture taken with you?
Well, because memorable moments. Somebody he said he met that was famous.
Now, let me just talk about John Wayne Bobbitt for a minute in terms of his personality and character. As you can see, he really took this in stride. And like I say, he really capitalized on this situation, as you're about to see. Now, John Wayne Bobbitt is an Aries. You know, Aries, they are very much about taking things in stride. Like, and, you know, Aries can be that tough guy type of persona where he's acting like, you know, it didn't bother him. It didn't really phase him. That's how he's kind of acting. Now, when he told the story about how at first they didn't know if they would be able to find that piece of his penis or find his penis, he was talking about, where's the gun? Because the first thing he thought about was putting a bullet in his head. So that could be indicative of him just having that Sun conjunct Saturn in Aries. But basically, when you see this Sun conjunct Saturn in Aries, let me just circle it. This can deal with where he is very egotistical. This also deals with him serving in the military. So he was served time in the military. But that also can deal with where he is very egotistical and where he's getting off on the fame that comes with him having his penis cut off. So this right here can manifest as a narcissistic aspect. He also has a Leo moon, which contributes to the narcissism and him loving the attention that he's getting. And then that Mars in Scorpio is just him being very much about using his penis as a way to make some money or to capitalize on that situation, because it's in the 5th house. So that shows that, you know, again, the attention that his penis or that he received as a result of his penis being cut off. And then Mars is ruling the 11th house through intercepted Aries. That's just showing the issue with the cut and how basically they said it was, the way the lady said, she was like brutal. So that Aries intercepting in the 11th, that can deal with where, you know, he's at risk of something happening in terms of his manhood, because that 11th house can deal with what's no longer available to you. So that can even mean that he was at risk of not ever being able to have sex ever again, to enjoy his sex life. But then once he was able to get the penis back, then basically that's showing he used that Aries intercepting the 11th house to basically gain fans and followers, and for him to be this unusual guy or unique, this guy that had this unique experience. So I'll just put it like that. Let me see what else could be contributing to his egotism. And as you already seen in the beginning of the documentary, they were saying his third wife is accusing him of abuse. So he does have some abusive aspects in his chart. That Mars quincunx Sun and Saturn alone can make him quite sadistic, especially Mars quincunx Saturn, and where he kind of gets off on overpowering people. But that can also deal with where he feels like he has something to prove sexually, but of course he would if he got his penis cut off. Now, as you can see, he's a South Node of Scorpio, 8th degree. 8th degree deals with karma, but 8th degree can also deal with the shortening of something being shortened, or where he's deprived of something, his penis. Scorpio does rule the genitals, including the penis. So with that South Node in the 6th house, that's pointing to a health concern. That's also dealing with the doctors, the surgery, all that stuff. But this basically shows that this was all part of his karma. Mars conjoined to his Scorpio South Node. All right, so let's continue on.
No, because I lived every man's dream. I've been a Playboy playmate. So I have, dated a lot of girls, did adult films. I hung out with a lot of celebrities, did a lot of TV shows. People see me on TV. So it's kind of like, wow, kind of famous. If I was him, I would have bought my autograph too. Bought a picture.
Today, far from the heady days of fame, John works as a furniture removal man in Vegas. When I met him, he'd just left his third.
Okay, let me look at his chart in terms of what contributes to him being a furniture removal man. Okay. So for that, I want to look at that 2nd house. So he has Cancer on the 2nd house, which can deal with him doing some type of work inside of a home to make money. And then the moon ruler of the 2nd house is in the 4th, reinforcing the home theme. And then that moon in Leo, that really doesn't deal with him moving furniture, but he does have moon trine Venus. And that Venus in Taurus, that's the furniture itself. And then he has Venus sextile Mercury that can deal with the actual furniture removal business, because the transportation, the driving, whatever, he might own a truck or whatever to do the removal, all that. Let's see what else. He also has Venus opposition Mars, so that can contribute to the furniture removal as well. So I just wanted to see what comes into play dealing with that. And with Mercury in the 10th house, yep, that's the furniture removal business. Okay.
Third wife and was kipping on his friend Dave's floor.
A lot of people look at him as a big celebrity. But he's just old John Bobbitt. Man got his penis cut off. That's all he is to me.
But what had led to the horrific penis chop incident? Back in the early 90s, John was an anonymous US Marine living in Manassas, Virginia, married to his South American wife, Lorena.
We had a good marriage. We had a lot of fun together. But there came a time where
the fact that his wife is South American and he is American points to him having that 23 birth number, because I can deal with a guy that gets with a woman from another country. And then also that comes into play that he has Sagittarius on the 7th house cusp, Jupiter in Cancer ruling the 7th house. And then that Jupiter's in the 2nd house, which means that she could have married him for money, just for her to have a better life.
we lost that loving feeling.
So we have fights, we will argue, we're young, and I guess we just didn't know how to handle marriage.
Their marriage went very wrong, and in the aftermath of the penis chop incident, the story took a darker turn.
Speaking of the marriage going very wrong, let me just pull up their marriage chart. Now, these two, they got married on one of the worst days to get married. They got married on the 18th. So anybody that's going to get married in the future, just avoid getting married on the 18th. So let me share my screen and pull up this chart. So let's see what's going on. So that South Node in Leo That's not really good for marriage, but sometimes you can't help that in terms of getting married. Moon is Sagittarius, so that's representing Lorena being from South America. Also, there's Gemini energy going on, so it shows that there could have been some duplicity going on in terms of the reason for getting married. Venus and Chiron in Cancer, and that could just deal with the whole country theme. Mars and Leo, so that could have dealt with there being some type of conflict with the events, the actual wedding party itself. Maybe things didn't go as planned, with Mars being in quincunx with Uranus in Capricorn. Was there any type of intrepidation, or what we call it, trepidation, like fear? Saturn was conjoined to Neptune in Capricorn, but that could deal with a military wedding ceremony, more than likely. But that could also deal with some fear. Maybe John Wayne Bobbitt, he had was a little bit fearful and was wondering if this is the right woman that he should be marrying. Okay, especially because the moon was opposing Jupiter and Gemini. So he might have had some second thoughts, but when it went through with it anyway. All right, let's go back. Oops.
With Lorena alleging that John had raped her in their apartment on that fateful June night in 1993.
I had it. My body, my mind, my whole me just couldn't take it anymore.
Lorena claimed she had suffered years of physical, mental, and sexual abuse by John. John has always maintained that this isn't true, and is adamant that she attacked him that night because he told her he was leaving her.
It's probably one of the most painful things a woman go through is being dumped by her husband. So, it was abuse, the spouse abuse. That was a made-up excuse. That wasn't the real, the truth. What she should have said was, he hurt my feelings. He kept leaving me over and over again. There's no abuse.
Whatever the truth, the state...
He didn't seem too convincing when he said that. Now, let me just pull up Lorena Bobbitt's chart real quick. Now, I have the birth time for John Wayne Bobbitt, but I don't have the birth time for Lorena Bobbitt. But we can still see some things. First of all, she got a wicked stellium in Scorpio. Look at all this. This is some woman that would do such a thing, cut off a man's penis, especially because she got Mars conjunct Uranus in Libra. That can cause her to just go off on the deep end, like her taking things to the extreme and her doing some inhumane shit even on the violent end against her own partner, her spouse, because it's in Libra. But look at all this Scorpio energy, man. She got Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Moon, and Neptune in Scorpio. Somebody like that can easily go off on the deep end, can end up becoming psychotic at a certain point, and next thing you know, they just losing their damn mind and cutting off somebody's penis. Now she got Chiron making a quincunx with her sun. So let me just highlight that real quick. Here's Chiron right here in Aries. Quincunx sun, that's like her inflicting wounds upon her husband. Now she has Saturn opposition Venus, and a lot of times this aspect can play out where you do get married simply for financial security, simply to change your financial status. She also has Moon conjunct Neptune, which can make her a little crazy. Now, I don't know what time she was born, so I don't know how close that moon is to Neptune, but I would think it's pretty close. So that could deal with where she just blacks out at times, just loses her damn mind again. So Mercury conjunct Jupiter, she has a tendency to go overboard again. So, yeah. She also has Pluto forming a quincunx with That Aquarius North Node, that's like her cutting veins and arteries and shit. All right, let me clear this and get back to the documentary.
Decided to prosecute both of them. As the trial dates approached, the media storm was building.
If she'd cut off his ears, his nose, or any other portion of his body other than his penis, why?
Okay, let me just also, I know I keep stopping this, but I did say I'll be stopping it to add my commentary. I will say with that stellium she has in Scorpio, of course, she could be a victim of abuse, including rape.
It wouldn't have caught the public's attention so much. And of course, it fed on itself as time went along.
Once the public got an interest in the tabloid aspects of it, they were hooked. And then, of course, unfortunately, there is the comical aspect.
Everyone wanted a bit of the Bobbitts.
I got the strong sense of being a celebrity because I had a lot of attention and people wanted my autograph all the time.
And he loved every minute of it.
I just got catapulted into it.
The phone wouldn't stop ringing.
That Leo moon
My
loved every
house or
minute of
from
it.
My attorney's office inviting me to interviews galore everywhere around the world.
The world was gripped by the Bobbitt story in a way it had never before been hooked by a news item.
John Bobbitt Day at this pawn shop. A lot of people are lining up to get close to John Bobbitt. Even I couldn't resist. Doug Smith, News 13.
By the time the trials reached court, hundreds of news teams from all around the world were firmly encamped outside the courthouse, waiting for the spectacle to begin.
People were everywhere, basically. People were there, people were over there at that building. The media was there all the time, over here, everywhere.
Hundred correspondents here. When I walked out of my house in the morning, media was waiting for me. When I got on the elevator to come up there, the media was waiting for me. If I said anything, I usually heard about it or read about it later on.
In the next hour on Trial Story, it's the case that captivated the nation.
The public appetite for the story was such that the whole of Lorena's trial was televised on CNN and Court TV to huge audiences. Outside court, locals saw a chance to profit from the trial, selling t-shirts and hot dogs, and encouraging everyone to join in a rousing sing-along.
Tossing out the window from your harpoons, you said we'll hit free.
Also contributing to the melee at the courthouse were hordes of Lorena's supporters, both feminists and South Americans, whose passions had been aroused by the story of the innocent immigrant defiled by the big bad US Marine.
Again, keep in mind that John Wayne Bobbitt has Sun conjunct Saturn in Aries, quincunx Mars, and Scorpio. Those can be aspects of an abuser, including somebody that will rape somebody.
I believe the support, even though it was in the middle of the blizzard and how cold it was, the people were here, you know, just supporting me. And that was really amazing. That was really nice.
It was hard to ignore the chanting and things that were going on outside the courthouse. We had bodyguards in both cases because of threats that we had received.
Amid the chaos, passion and confusion, two separate trials took place. John was tried first on a charge of marital sexual assault.
Probably the most incriminating evidence is when she was asked by the police that morning, why did you do this? Why did you cut this off? And she said, because he have orgasm and not wait for me. And she just got frustrated and tired of it, so she went and cut it off.
By me saying that, oh yeah, I didn't get any orgasm or pleasure out of sex is because I didn't want to say I always get raped by my husband.
That statement is extraordinarily damning as a reason. That's what she said. It wasn't until...
Okay, now what she said, that doesn't even make sense. Why would she hold back? Like, to me, the best defense would be, oh yeah, I cut my husband's penis off because he raped me. So when she first said, oh, because he would always come first, this is why this story is really tricky. When she said, oh, it's because he would have an orgasm and I wouldn't have one. Like, why would she choose to say that? And then when she basically said later on that she was raped, was it because her attorney counseled her to say that? Makes you wonder. Now, somebody that has this heavy Scorpio energy, let me just share my screen, because on one hand, she could be a victim with all the Scorpio energy. But on the other hand, she could just be the type of chick that takes things to an extreme, even something to the fact that she's not getting any sexual pleasure out the deal and he's only getting it. So this hookup right here. And then she got Mars conjunct Uranus in Libra, and that can make her phony to a certain extent. So when I look at her chart, part of me is like, okay, is she really a victim here, or is it a situation where both parties are crazy? Because I'm seeing John Wayne Bobbitt as being crazy himself, but I see her as being crazy along with him. Now her Neptune is squaring that Leo South Node, and that can deal with where she feels cheated out of sex. So let me just highlight that. Neptune squaring that Leo South Node, that's where she could feel cheated out of sex, or where she's being neglected sexually, where she's like, oh, it's all for him and I'm just his sex slave or whatever. Now, when I go to John Wayne Bobbitt's chart, John Wayne Bobbitt has Moon square Neptune. So let me just highlight that aspect. And that can deal with where he gets with a woman that is crazy, or that can get psycho on him. But it can also deal with where he really mistreats a woman. He cheats all over her, and he treats her like just a sex object. He basically uses her for sex. You could look at it like that. So both, and again, this is why it's kind of tricky looking at these two, and it makes sense why they had two trials. First was about the abuse, and then second was about her cutting off his penis. So just him having this Moon square Neptune, it could also deal with where his wife is making some of the stuff up. All right, so let's go back to the documentary.
Weeks later, they put out this long story about how she'd been a victim of a pattern of abuse.
John's defense further discredited Lorena's story of rape by presenting some strong forensic evidence which seemed to show that Lorena ripped her own knickers after the incident.
Our expert came in and testified that there was a scissors cut right in the crotch of the panties to enable someone to start to tear the panties with their hands. Not surprisingly, John was found innocent at trial.
All right, John, if you want to say something?
I just want to say I'm relieved that this is all over, and I'm thankful for the jury that they believed me, and I just want to get on with my life, and because I got a lot of healing to do and start my life over again.
Verdict of innocence sent shockwaves through Lorena's supporters. It was looking less likely that Lorena would be found innocent in her trial for malicious wounding.
There was a great deal of publicity about the first trial and the first result. I tried to get the jury to listen to the evidence that was produced at that trial, the trial of Lorena Bobbitt, in making their decision, and put aside what they had heard or read about John's trial.
This is a classic case of irresistible impulse. She could not control her impulsive act.
Lorena's defense pleaded temporary insanity, saying she'd been pushed to attack John by his continued mistreatment of her.
My husband raped me. Maybe you don't understand because you're a man. He didn't understand because he's...
There's not a single tear coming out of those eyes. Now, remember, I said that Mars conjunct Uranus can cause her to be phony.
So man, but it hurt me.
The jury found her testimony to be very compelling and very believable.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Lorena Lenore Bobbitt, not guilty of malicious wounding as charged in the indictment by reason of insanity.
The case was tried. Case is over.
So it turned out that, strangely enough, they were both found not guilty. Jury number 1 didn't believe John had raped Lorena, whilst jury number 2 believed he not only raped her that night, but had abused her so much that she became temporarily insane. The case that had gripped the world for the last 6 months had ended with nothing more dramatic than Lorena having to spend 45 days in psychiatric care.
What she got was what I wanted her to get. Everything she said was a lie. Everything she said was a lie.
You know, he lied almost the whole trial.
One thing that everybody has told me...
I think they're both liars. I think both of them are guilty to a certain extent. I think she went to the extreme by cutting off his penis, but I'm not really seeing him as a good guy either. But I don't think he deserved getting his penis cut off. But at the same time, Lorena, it does not seem like somebody that is going to, or does not seem like she's totally innocent herself. Now, I'm looking for the aspect that dealt with her basically being acquitted, where she didn't have to, she wasn't convicted. So let's see. She don't have that many positive, but it makes sense, this whole stellium in Scorpio. But that Mars conjunct Uranus, that could deal with her being exonerated, I guess you could say. Her being cleared, you can kind of say. But I'm not really satisfied with that one. It could just be the fact that she has that moon conjunct Neptune. Somebody with that can get away with murder, basically. Not saying she murdered that dick though. But I mean, they were able to bring it back to life. But yeah, it's just interesting. This is a really interesting story about these two. Now, let me just look at this Sinistry real quick and look at the aspect that dealt with her cutting his penis off. Let's see. The most obvious one is her Pluto is opposing his sun. And with his sun being in Aries, that could pertain to her basically attacking him to the point where it's a life-threatening situation. Let's see, his ascendant. South node. So her sun is conjoined to his south node. Her Mercury is conjoined to his south node. Her Jupiter is conjoined to his south node. So here it is right here. Chiron, quincunx south node. This is the aspect. This is the chief aspect that dealt with her cutting off his penis. Because her Chiron's in Aries and his south node's in Scorpio. So here's her Chiron and then here's his south node. So that's the aspect, the chief aspect that dealt with her cutting off his penis. And yeah, I mean, this is pretty egregious. But if you see all that, she got 3 planets on his south node. So you know this couldn't have ended well. His Neptune is conjoined to her moon. But again, I don't know how close that is, but I would think it's rather close. So that's basically reinforcing that moon conjunct Neptune in her chart. And that could deal with where, yeah, he tried to treat her like she was just some sex slave or just there for his sexual pleasure, and basically where he didn't treat her like she had her own feelings. Neptune conjoined to Venus as well. That could deal with her feeling trapped in that marriage. And also, again, feeling like she's not being treated as a real person in the relationship, where she feels like she's being neglected sexually with that Neptune being in Scorpio, her planets being in Scorpio. Her Neptune is squaring his Mercury, so that's her like telling the lies. Okay. I might have to make this 2 parts. All right, so let me bring this documentary back up.
Consistently is that he's incapable of telling the truth. Even when it hurts him, he's incapable of telling the truth. I mean, telling strike that.
Wow. Freudian
Thank God I didn't
slip.
say that upstairs.
Wow.
He was
Major
basically incapable
blunder.
of telling the truth.
I told
He
you, I
was
feel like
just not
both of them are
capable
lying to a
telling the
certain
truth.
degree.
Sorry, when you said he's incapable of telling the truth.
He's incapable of lying, excuse me.
Now, on one hand, I will say this. That Sun conjunct Saturn, I might have already said it, but that can make him sadistic and also masochistic. So on one hand, I'm like, were they playing some sick sexual game and it got out of hand with because honestly, a guy that has that hookup, let me just go back to his chart. And I think I will stop here, but then probably on Thursday night or tonight, I'll probably just go live and continue on with this. But if you look at these aspects, and some people are into things like strangulation of their penis. Sun, Saturn, quincunx. Let me just draw it. Quincunx, Mars, and Scorpio. You never know. They could have been into like some really dark type of sadomasochistic type sex, especially with Lorena Bobbitt having that heavy stellium in Scorpio. And maybe one night it got too far because she wasn't getting what, again, she could have told the truth in that respect where she wasn't getting the sexual gratification and she got tired of it being all about him. So instead of just tying his penis up or whatever, or doing whatever the hell she did, she ends up cutting it off instead. Because somebody that can do something like that, they're already inclined towards some type of sadistic type of behavior anyway. Something's really strange with this situation. Now, again, Jupiter is ruling that 7th house. It's forming a quincunx with that Aquarius midheaven. So there could have been something perverted about this marriage, and it could have even dealt with their sex life. And then Jupiter is in sextile with Uranus. Now that can deal with the doctor's influence, but in terms of his marriage, again, there could be something weird or something unusual about their connection. And because Uranus is joining Pluto, it could be their sex life. Maybe they were into some dark forms of sex, which would explain why John Wayne Bobbitt later on ended up doing porn. Because again, he was already inclined to be like sexually deviant. And I'm looking at her being sexually deviant as well. Just having all that Scorpio energy, period. But then having Mars conjunct Uranus, that could be somebody that's into some weird type of sexual activity. Again, because it's like he took this too much in stride. Again, this is a very weird story. Let me just play some more and then I'm going to close out and continue this on later because I got a lot of work to do.
John Wayne Bobbitt had his penis chopped off by his wife, and the impact reached far and wide.
He don't even seem traumatized by the situation. Even though he was able to get his penis reattached, he does not seem the least bit traumatized. Again, he actually seems like it was one of the best things in the world that happened to him.
The word penis was seen in US newsprint for the first time ever. The word bobbit became a verb in the dictionary. And there is even a Bobbitt worm, a sea creature named after Lorena because it castrates the male after sex. John himself shot to fame after the incident.
Moon and Leo.
Though 12 years on, he's not quite a
You feel like moving people's houses, the job you do now, do you feel like that's quite a fall down a few notches from where you once were?
No. Doesn't matter what you do as long as you're working. I could do movies.
First of all, why would she ask that dumb question? It wasn't like he was ever a celebrity. He just capitalized on the fact that he had his penis cut off. So that was a dumb question of hers.
Blue movies, commercials, all kinds of fun TV shows and sitcoms. I can do all that, but what fun is it? This is fun to me. And I got paid for doing it.
Okay, that was so narcissistic what he said. He talking about this is fun to me. He know good and well he hates what he has to do right now. I'm just saying, but that was a narcissistic response. And I do believe he is a full-blown narcissist. But at the same time, Lorena could be a narcissist as well. This could have been a case of two narcs coming together, match made in Hades.
Yeah. Hello? Yes.
John hasn't quite let go of his celebrity. Despite being a furniture removal man, he also has an agent.
I said, hey, John.
Okay, I'm going to stop right here. So consider this to be part one. But actually, you got the gist of it, but I'll be talking about this more in depth when I go live later on tonight. So stay tuned for that. But I gave y'all a lot to chew on so far. So feel free to comment and share your thoughts. And let me know what you think. Do you think that Lorena should have got off? Like, should she have been acquitted? Should she have faced some time for cutting off his penis? Do you think that there's more to the story? Like it could have been some sick sexual shit going on that went too far? Or do you feel that, everything Lorena was saying is true and she should have got off all this stuff? Do you feel like Wayne Bobbitt is a narcissist, or do you feel like he's just a guy that got lucky in terms of I wouldn't consider that being lucky, but he sure act like, that really helped him along in life. He definitely made some money off of it. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section. I'll be back later on tonight with a more in-depth discussion. All right, see you later.